What's the big old deal, boys? We are in Qatar. UFC Fight Night. Dan Hooker versus Arman Tsarukyan is here. It's here. This is a bad blood match. On Twitter for about 2.5 years, all right? I am ready. My body is ready. This is right after the disappointment of the main event of UFC 322, all right? You can tell by the bald head. It's all right. Co-main event, we have Bilal Muhammad versus Ian Gary. I'm excited. The welterweight rankings aren't even going to know what smacked them after, UFC 322 and this Fight Night card, boys. This is fantastic. We're in Qatar, so you already know there's like 1,000 undefeated Muslim region fighters on here. We have Luke Riley making his UFC debut, Alexandria Tuporia, Ilia Tuporia's brothers on this card. A whole bunch of bangers. All right, we're gonna break this card down from the top all the way down to the bottom. I'm gonna give you guys all my thoughts for all the fights. We're gonna start with the main event. Arman Tsarukyan versus Dan Hooker is a fight that in reality is so lopsided it's not even funny. Now, yes, I have been an Australian coper. I've been coping with the Australians for just teaching JDM how to do the buggy choke. JDM is going to beat up Islam Makhachev. JDM beat up Bilal Muhammad. We're going to get to JDM and Bilal Muhammad when we get to Bilal Muhammad, but I was so high on the Australian fighters, right? Defending against all of the Caucasus region fighters. And JDM kind of put a wet blanket over that. Now, Arman Tsarukyan was in Khamzat Chimaev's corner when Khamzat fought DDP, and he was screaming in the corner, telling Khamzat not to strike with DDP. Don't even ground and pound him. Just hold him in crucifix. Just hold him in the crucifix. So that is something we need to keep in mind. That is more than likely going to be Arman Tsarukyan's game plan with Dan Hooker. Stand there, wait for Dan Hooker to throw his backhand so he's a little bit off balance, and take him down and hold him down until the end of the round, right? That is more than likely what's going to happen in this main event. Now, what I want to happen in this main event is exactly what Dan Hooker did to Gamrot. Defend the takedowns, get up, and win the fight. Make it ugly. Throw some elbows, throw some knees up the middle, and squabble them up. Now, am I going to sit here and tell you guys Dan Hooker's going to win as a plus 310 underdog? Boy, oh boy, I fucking hope so. I hope we don't see Arman Tsarukyan win. This fight is the number one contender fight. Arman wins, he's the number one contender. If Dan wins, Dan has to go fight contender to fight Ilia Tuporia, and we know that's a fact. If Dan Hooker goes out there and embarrasses Arman Tsarukyan, be giving Dan Hooker Justin Gaethje yet again. Be able to see Ilia Tuporia, even though he is very rangy, he's very tall for the division, Dan might actually do good against Ilia Tuporia until Ilia touches him with his right hand, and then he's done. But Arman Tsarukyan needs this W. If Arman gets this W, he will be fighting Ilia Tuporia, and that is the fight that a lot of people want to see for Ilia Tuporia next, if it is not Islam Makhachev. Now, me, on the other hand, I want to see Ilia versus Justin. I'm not really that into the whole let's have a grappling match, you know what I mean? But I'm really confident on the ground, boys. He went to the ground with Charles Oliveira while Charles on guard, and Ilia seemed comfortable down there. So, in reality, I'm not that worried. If Arman Tsarukyan gets past Dan Hooker, I'm gonna go Ilia Tuporia to sleep Arman Tsarukyan in the first round. I don't think Arman has that dog in him. Yeah, dude is mega flexible. He's very strong, and you know what? He actually does have that dog in him, but not like Ilia Tuporia, man. Let's be for real. But in reality, Arman wins a decision, 50-45 against Dan Hooker. If Dan, you know what? I feel so demoralized saying that. I honestly feel like a bitch saying that. So you know what? We're going Dan Hooker. KO TKO / decision. Let's go, Dan, man. You know what? I'm coping. Inject the copium into my veins. I need an Arman Tsarukyan loss. I need an Arman Tsarukyan loss. Dude has ring rust. He hasn't been in the octagon for how long? When's the last time we saw Arman fight? It was UFC 300, right? UFC 323, by the way. Almost 2 years in full. So Arman's dealing with a lot of ring rust, all right? Dan Hooker, not really a kind of ring rust guy, but, you know, he doesn't live the healthiest lifestyle. You know, Arman Tsarukyan is over there paying upwards of $300,000 for his training camps. That includes nutritionists, foods, dietitians, coaches. So Arman is more than likely a little bit more locked in on the physical side than Dan Hooker is, but Dan Hooker has that fucking dog in him. He has that dog in him. He likes to get punched in the face, and violence excites this guy. So this is going to be a fantastic main event, because Arman literally went tooth and nail with Gamrot, and he lost. You know who beat Gamrot? Dan Hooker. Dan Hooker did fantastic defending against all of Gamrot's takedowns. He did. But I'm going to concede, but I'm going to go Dan Hooker, man. Obviously, I'm not over here telling you like how it was for JDM. Like, hey, JDM has this in the bag, but I am really, truly hoping for a Dan Hooker throwdown, a vicious Dan Hooker 5-round war. That's what I want this weekend. Hopefully, that's what I get. Moving on, boys, to the co-main event. Bilal Muhammad versus Ian Machado Gary. Now, Bilal is coming off of a loss against JDM. I was sitting here saying we're going to actually see how good JDM is against Islam Makhachev. He's going to show some levels. I don't need to explain to you guys what happened at UFC 322 against JDM and Islam Makhachev, but this Bilal Muhammad loss against JDM does not age well at all. Like, absolutely not even in the slightest. You know, JDM wasn't able to defend one takedown. You know, he didn't look good on the feet at all. To be fair, he looked extremely demoralized, but it's all right. Now, things we need to take into account for breaking down this Ian Gary versus Bilal fight. These dudes don't like each other. Ian Gary is massive. Fucking massive for the division. Ian Gary is 6'3". Bilal Muhammad is 5'11". Ian Gary has a 2.5-inch reach advantage against Bilal Muhammad, and these dudes have the same record. They're 4-1 in their last 5. You know, Ian Gary losing that fight to Shavkat Rakhmonov, and he's coming off of a W against Carlos Prates. We haven't seen him against his fight. I haven't seen him since his fight against Carlos Prates. I was sitting over here telling you guys, look, Bilal is going to beat up Ian Gary in front of Ian Gary's wife and in front of Ian Gary's wife's husband, but I'm wrong. And I'm man enough to admit that Ian Gary is going to more than likely beat up Bilal Muhammad over 5 rounds. Now, why I say this is that loss against JDM. JDM is not as rangy as Ian Gary. He's not as quick as Ian Gary. He's not as creative with his strikes, and he definitely doesn't throw as many head kicks as Ian Gary. All right? Ian's a little bit more comfortable on the ground than JDM. I mean, to be fair, Ian's sprawl is not that fantastic if you compare it to JDM, but he is definitely a little bit more comfortable on the ground. Granted, he trains at Shoot the Box. For some reason, it says you train at Killcliff FC Fight Club, but we know Ian Gary's down there in Brazil learning Portuguese, hanging out with the Brazilians, learning how to stay on guard. So I think Bilal Muhammad's fight game plan for 90% of the fights he goes into, which is just take you down, hold you there, let you get, like, literally the Dagestanian Islam game plan. I don't think that that's going to work very well with somebody who is comfortable on being on the ground, like comfortable with you trying to get a dominant position and it's fine with being in those little scrambles. So that's why Bilal Muhammad all media day was saying, you know, I'm just going to stand and bang with him. And he was talking about how, for this fight camp, Bilal Muhammad, he was training with Ignacio Bahamondes and how he thinks Ignacio Bahamondes is a better striker than Ian Gary. Well, I don't know if Bilal knows this. Ignacio Bahamondes isn't he coming off of a loss? Isn't Bahamondes coming off of a loss against Fiziev? Didn't Fiziev go out there and absolutely embarrass Rafael Fiziev? F-I-Z-E-V. Am I just wrong? Do I not know how to spell Fiziev? You guys aren't even giving me anything. Fighters, events, F-I-Z-I-E-V. All right, cool. We'll click on it. I just need to make sure that Bahamondes is coming off of a loss. Yeah, Ignacio Bahamondes is coming off of a loss against Rafael Fiziev. How is Ignacio Bahamondes a better striker than Ian Gary, by the way? Sure, Fiziev is a fantastic striker, but Ignacio got outranged by a dude who's like 4 inches smaller than him. How does that even happen? How is a dude who is smaller than you, has less range than you, outrange? Like, he understands the range game than you do. All right? I think Bilal's I think his brain's a little bit soup, all right, after that JDM loss, because That makes no sense to me. Saying that Ignacio Bahamondes is a better striker than Ian Gary when Ian Gary fought Michael Venom Page, like he went the distance with Michael Venom Page, makes zero sense to me. Now, do I think the MVP fight was a robbery for Ian? Yes, MVP should have won that, or at least should have been a draw. But Ignacio is not making it 3 or 5 rounds with MVP. Not even close. So we will be going with Ian Gary here. And if you look at the betting slip, everybody over here is taking Ian Gary by decision. 75% of the people betting on this fight are taking Ian Gary, and 89% of that 75% are taking Ian Gary by decision. So that's kind of how that's looking like. The main and the co-main are honestly the 2 best fights on this card, but we're going to go through these other fights. I'm going to give you guys my ideas and breakdowns of all these fights. So the third fight from the top, still on the main card, we have Volkan Ozdemir. We haven't seen in a year. We literally haven't seen him in a year. He fought November 23rd, 2024. He lost to Carlos Olberg, took Carlos to decision, which is honestly a medal in itself. You know, you being that old. Volkan's been around forever. He's fighting Alonzo Menafield. Alonzo's coming off of a nice win against Omar Sy and a split win against Julius Walker. To be fair, light heavyweight, you know, the power over here is insane. I'm going to be honest with you, man. I'm going Alonzo Menafield. I'm not really a fan of Alonzo Menafield, but somebody coming off of a year layoff in the heavier weight classes, I'm not really a big fan of that. So, Alonzo sitting at a plus 190 underdog sounds fantastic to me. It honestly does. Moving on, boys. Jack Hermansson versus Mighty Bek Orbaletti. The caveman himself is making his return on the UFC Qatar card. Now, boys, this is going to be a banger. This is going to be an absolute banger. To be fair, Jack Hermansson is coming off of getting absolutely starched by RoboCop, but getting starched by RoboCop isn't that bad of a thing. Have you ever seen this dude? RoboCop is a monster, okay? An actual monster that should be in like a horror movie. RoboCop is a scary dude, all right? So getting knocked out by RoboCop, not that big of a deal. Never forget, Jack Hermansson is the one who fraud checked Joe Pyfer. Never forget. All right, so Jack Hermansson is never an easy night out, even if you look at his win-loss, okay? He's not an easy night out. The win-loss, he has 7 losses in the UFC and 11 wins in the UFC, so not really the best. Now, Mighty Bek Orbaletti, a dude known for throwing down, having vicious wars. First fight that comes to mind when I think of Orbaletti is his fight against Marcisios Rubetsky. Absolute fantastic fight of the year candidate. Absolutely beautiful. Literal vicious war that literally forever, that war against Orbaletti forever changed Marcisios Rubetsky's life. His career, his chin, his ability to take damage. Orbaletti changed somebody's trajectory in life. We will be going Orbaletti by straight viciousness, out-dogging Jack Hermansson. Let's go, Mighty Bek Orbaletti. Moving on, boys. Heavyweights, man. Sergey Spivak, the polar bear. The polar bear. Fun fact, I met this guy, Sergey Spivak. Absolute monster. Scary dude. I understand why they call him the polar bear. Dude is fucking massive. How tall is bro? How tall? 6'3". By the way, I met him more like 6'5". Okay, dude is insane. Dude is one of the nicest guys you will ever meet, though. He stopped with all the fans and wanted to take pictures with literally everybody. Absolute awesome dude. Shook my hand and everything. Fantastic guy, but a scary individual. Regardless, I met him at UFC 316 right before he was about to fight Waldo Cortez Acosta. And I told him, don't let that Dominican touch you. Don't let that Dominican knock you out, brother. But he lost to Waldo Cortez Acosta, and honestly, I hope Waldo... Oh, I thought Waldo had a fight announced. Didn't Waldo have a fight announced? Huh. Well, he just beat up Ante Delija, but I could have swore Waldo had a fight announced. Huh. My brain might be a little bit more soup than I thought. Now, Sergey Spivak is fighting our champion, the MMA community's real heavyweight champion, Shamil Gaziev. Shamil Gaziev has that fucking dog in him, boys. An absolute animal, an absolute savage, coming off of 2 back-to-back wins. One against Dontel Mize, who he took to decision. and one against Thomas Peterson, who he slept in the first round, okay? My boy Shamil is absolutely nothing to play with. Never mess with Shamil Gaziev. We're going Shamil Gaziev. Shamil Gaziev. Just Shamil Gaziev money line. I like Sergey Spivak, but getting KO'd by Jalton Almeida, it's not really the star you want on your Christmas tree. You know what I mean? Moving on, boys. Tagir Ulanbekov is making his return to the UFC after, for whatever reason, my brain always tells me that Tagir has not been in the UFC for like 10 years. In reality, Tagir has been in the UFC, so I don't know what's going on with my brain, but it's okay. Tagir is coming off of beating up Azat. Congratulations. He also beat up Clayton Carpenter, Cody Durden. He's on a little bit of a roll. They have Tagir Ulanbekov, who is, Russian. He hangs out with the Islam Makhachevs and all those dudes, that little Dagestanian camp. They are having him fight Koji Horiguchi. Now, I earlier reported on my TikTok and Instagram, I deleted it after 20 minutes, that they had Tagir fighting a dude who has not fought in the UFC in over 10 years. Which is true. I don't know why I deleted that video, because he literally has been fighting in Ryzen and Bellator and Ryzen and Bellator and Ryzen and Bellator since 2017. His last fight in the UFC was 2016. It was 2016. What are we doing? And then another canceled bout from Tagir. Look, listen. I'm not even picking a winner for this fight, but we're going to be going with, we're going with Koji. We're going Koji Horiguchi, which in reality, Tagir is going to go down there. No, Tagir is honestly a pretty decent striker. I'm not going to lie with you. From the things I remember of Tagir, which are very minimal, a pretty decent striker. But we're going to go Koji Horiguchi. Going Koji Horiguchi. No, listen, you haven't been in the UFC for 10 years, and the first person they put you against is a Dagestani. He's a Russian. Unlucky. Absolutely unlucky. Good luck, my boy. Go do your thing. Throw a fucking coin in the air. Whatever it lands on, just pick for this fight. I'm going to be honest with you. Moving on, boys. Luke Riley, a teammate of Paddy Pimblett, is coming to the UFC. This is his UFC debut. Wow, I did not know that Luke Riley was supposed to fight Kevin Vallejos in Contender Series and it got canceled. That would have been a fucking banger. You could have threw the BMF belt on that. Well, to be honest, don't really know. I mean, I've heard of Luke Riley. I've heard of Luke Riley before, multiple times. They have Luke Riley fighting Bogdan Grad. Bogdan Grad has that dog in him. I am not going to lie to you guys. He has that dog in him. 2 fights in the UFC down. Has his split decision win for Contender Series. I actually do remember this Contender Series fight. Actual banger. Bogdan Grad is a savage. He's a trained assassin. I'm not. Nolan. Shout out to Tom Nolan. This is going to be a banger, boys. I am leaning towards Luke. Not as heavy as the odds suggest, man. You want a good underdog value right here? Bogdan Grad. Bogdan Grad is honestly a good betting split for this fight. Wow, they don't even want to show me the betting. Oh, right here. Sorry, my bad. 23% of the money is going towards Bogdan. Well, this is obviously not money. This is everybody's predictions, but 23% of the predictions are going to Bogdan Grad, and I'm not gonna lie. Man. I'm gonna go Bogdan Grad here. I'm gonna go Bogdan here. Just look at the Tapology pictures. Just look at the small wrists. Look at the little frail wrists that dude has. Frail. You want to talk about frail wrists? Brock's wrists aren't that frail, but those look like some dainty wrists. Okay, not gonna lie, we will be going Bogdan Grad. I came on this. I was like, what, we're gonna go for Luke Riley. He's gonna do his thing, but seeing the Tapology picture, I'm not really fucking with it. Moving on, boys. Am I supposed to honestly pronounce this name? Am I honestly supposed to even try? I cannot wait to hear somebody pronounce this name on Saturday. Cannot wait. Saigid Izagakamaf. That is an honest try. An honest try. I'm going to be honest with you. This dude is 22-2. First fight in the UFC's fought in karate combat, fought in one championship, fought in, does that say guerrilla fighting? Does that say, was he in a promotion called guerrilla fighting? Okay. Darce choked. He has a Darce choke loss. Decision loss. Dude was just running amok in other promotions, huh? Running amok. Who says that one doesn't let you fight? Dude had 3 fights in 2022. 3 of them. 3 of them. Count it. Count it. This is his first fight in the UFC. They have him going against an absolute dog in Nicholas Darby. Now, Nicholas's resume is not what it used to. It's not what it used to be, okay? 2 back-to-back losses. Run against Renat, which was a split decision, absolute war. And then he did get slept against Randy Brown. Bad. Lost a lot of money right there. To be fair, not going to lie to you, I'm going Sigid Izagakamaf. Sigid Izagakamaf. I might have actually pronounced that right. I'm not even joking. Sigid Izagakamaf is going to take this W. All right, let's go Sigid Izagakamaf. I fuck with that. If that is how you pronounce that, shit is hard. That is a warrior's name. All right, moving on, boys. Alex Perez on the card fighting Asu Alamadabidev. Now, I'm going to be honest with you guys. Never put your fucking money on Asu Alamadabidev ever. Dude is going to spam takedowns and do literally nothing else. Do absolutely nothing else. I really do not like this guy, and I hope Alex Perez goes out there and does his thing, but in reality, do you see this fucking resume, guys? Do you see it? In reality, it's not going to happen. This is it. Asu is going to take the W, and there's really nothing we can do about it. Plus 160 underdog is an actual disgrace. He should be plus 5,000. Moving on, man. Abdul Rakhmanev Yakhinov. I think we got that. I think we got that one down, brother. This is his first fight in the UFC on a how many fight win streak. He lost his first ever amateur bout decision and then went on an absolute tear. Beating up dudes I've never even heard of. Had to cancel his fight and won his contender series in 30 seconds. Okay. You knock somebody out in 30 seconds, who do they give you? They give you Rafael Carrera, coming off of 3 back-to-back losses. Okay, do I even need to break down this fight? Do I personally need to break down this fight for you guys? Minus 1,000. Moving on. Bezunov. Okay, coming off of a loss to Umar, beat up Brad Katona, knocked him out in the first round. Uppercut to ground punches. So I guess like uppercut and then move to ground and pound. He is fighting our GOAT's brother, Alexandre Tuporia. Cue the music. Alexandre Tuporia coming off of beating up Colby Thickness. I thought that was going to be a finish. You had Tuporia, you had Ilya in your corner, you had your brother in your corner, and he does have his brother in his corner for this fight as well. I did think that Colby Thickness was going to get finished, but he did not. Listen, we're going Alexander Tuporia here, even though Bezkat Alakmuninov, he went the distance with Umar. Something to be very notable about. We just go through his modified MMA rules, by the way. I'm not really liking that. Missed weight. This dude missed weight for almost all of his amateur fights. Missed weight. Okay, Jesus. Gee, and then he got it under control. Okay, 1-1. Imagine your first fight in the UFC, they throw you Umar Nurmagomedov. I would be sick. He went the distance with him, though. Knocked out Brad. That breaks my heart. How you gonna knock out Brad Katona, man? What a good guy. I'm staying away from this fight. I smell an upset. I smell a Bezcat W coming. I do. I really do. I feel like somebody's in Bezcat's ear like, hey, Hey, this dude's brother's talking a lot of shit about Islam and Habib. Go get him. And I think that might happen. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. Moving on, man. Ryan Loder has made his way back. Made his way back to the octagon, man. Beat up Robert Valentin. Lost to Asmat Bukhanov in the first round. He's fighting Ismail Nurmagomedov, all right? Ismail lost to John Young Pork. Iron Turtle. Iron Turtle. Absolute savage of a man. The Iron Turtle is nothing to be played with. Should be feared, honestly, okay? He lost to Iron Turtle. Decision unanimous. His resume is looking like a Christmas tree. It's looking like a Christmas tree. I am hoping we see a Ryan Loder W. At this point, I'm coping. I'm hoping we see a Ryan Loder W, but Ismail Nurmagomedov. Fuck that, man. Ryan Loder, knock him out. We're going Ryan Loder. Ryan Loder going to take him out of here. Not really a big fan of Ismail. Literally, look at his resume. It is a fucking Christmas tree. All right, moving on, boys. Nurello Aliyev. Okay, 10-0. Beat up a dude named Josh Wick. Josh Wick? Knocked him out in the first. John Wick's brother? Okay. Is fighting Shamrock Rock. Another Paddy Pimblett teammate, boys. Shamrock 12-1-1. First fight in the UFC. He's gonna lose. He's gonna lose. I've seen somebody posting his clips on Twitter of his amateur fights, and he's like flinching and doing all this other weird shit. We're going Nurello Aliyev, man. And then the first fight to open up the card, boys. They have the big boys. They have the fat monsters out here, the overweight goblins, the out-of-breath savages. Denzel Friedman versus Marek Bulio. One is 6-0. One is 6-1. Throw a fucking coin in the air. These dudes are at heavyweight. Just pick who do you think has the better lungs. All right, man. I'm out of here. This was my UFC Qatar prediction video. I hope everything goes well. Dan, please win. Please. I'm out of here, guys. Peace out.